Hey guys, it's Beth. Back today with another quick project share of some cards that I've made using this Fall and Halloween stack from Die Cuts with a View that I'm working on killing off with my latest project. And I don't know what your guys' weather is like today, but in central Indiana it's cool and rainy, which totally feels like fall, so it fits in with my fall project share today, or all the fall patterns in my project share. But if you saw my last video, you saw some signs that I had made using this gourd paper. And I had a bunch of scraps left, and so I wanted to use it up on some cards. So I used this sketch by Reverse Confetti. It's sketch number 25. And all of my cards are A2 size, or all of these are A2 size, so they're 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I did these on craft cardstock. And in the pad there was this green and white grid paper, which I thought would make a good background, kind of a neutralish type background for all my bright, big patterned gourd paper. So the gourd piece, and you can do the squares any size because there's no measurements on the card sketch, so you can do the squares any size that you need to fit your card or your style or based on the scraps you have. But I took my pieces of the gourd paper and backed them on craft cardstock just to kind of continue the layered look. And then my sentiment, "Hello Gorgeous," I printed out from my silhouette. I just sized in a silhouette file down, or actually kind of edited one, and then sized it down to the size that I wanted to fit in a 1 3/4 inch circle, and then sent it to my printer and printed it out on an 8 1/2 by 11 piece of white cardstock. And then I backed it with a 2-inch circle of craft cardstock as well. And then this strip that goes across here, I just went through my scrap pile and pulled out any strips that were skinny enough to fit behind my circle. So there are several different patterns in widths, even of the same pattern that I used, just to use up some existing strips that I had. So I was able to get a bunch of those cards, used up a bunch of paper with that. And then I still had the gourd paper scraps left, and they were more in a strip. So I cut those down and then backed them with a craft cardstock. And then I found a pattern paper strip in my scrap pile that kind of coordinated with the colors that were in my strip of the gourd paper. And I did not cut them down to any specific width. I just, whatever width they were was the width I went with, just to make it quick and easy. So that's also backed on craft cardstock. And then there was a orange and white grid paper in the pad as well. And so I used that for the background of most of these. And then here again is my Hello Gorgeous sentiment. So you can see that one's muted and the strip sizes are different. And then I still had some skinnier strips left of the gourd paper. So I didn't have enough to fill the whole card, so I just kind of grouped them into the middle and then tied it together, all 3 of those strips together with this pattern paper strip going across all 3. And there's my circle sentiment. And then this one, they were tall and skinny, and so they almost filled the whole card front. So I just kind of spaced them out evenly so that they made my card front for me, and then again tied them together with a thin strip of pattern paper. And then I had some pumpkin paper left from the coasters that I did. And I used this sketch, which it just says CPS 217. I think that's Card Positioning Systems. But it's one of my go-to sketches for when I start making the cards as part of my Kilopad projects, because it's quick and quick and easy, and it uses up a good amount of paper. So I was able to make like 4 of these with this big scrap of the pumpkin paper. And then I just typed in "Hi Pumpkin" into my silhouette and found some fonts that I liked to create my sentiment on these. and then just did fishtail banners across the bottom. And the sketch actually calls for circle elements up here, but I think it filled my card enough that it didn't need that extra. And then I have a couple more of the pumpkin cards. This one I used, it's SC355 is the sketch number. And just used up some of the strips and scraps that I had in my scrap pile with one of my final pieces of the pumpkin paper. And then when I was printing out the high pumpkin from my silhouette, I printed some kind of stacked on top of each other. And then I used an oval die to cut the sentiment out of that one. And this one, it's just a real simple card, but I had 2 strips of the pumpkin paper that were a couple inches wide each. And it almost looked like they could have gone together to, you know, but it was missing just a little bit. So I decided to put them on my card front and make that my card front. Because once I evenly spaced the strips on there, and then had just a little bit of a gap across the middle. So I decided to go ahead and I put a plain white sentiment strip or a plain white cardstock with my sentiment on it all the way across, so it covered up that gap. And so it looks like it's actually, you know, one solid piece that goes across. But then I just added some little faux stitching on my sentiment with one of my black pins. And then I still had some usable scraps from both the gourds and the pumpkins. And the pumpkins were actually like almost square. So I just went ahead and cut those down into like 2 7/8 by 2 7/8 and made some little 3 by 3 inch note cards, mini note cards. And I just used Got Pumpkin on one and my High Pumpkin on the other. And then of the gourd paper, it was thinner strips, so it didn't actually fill my 3 by 3 square again, kind of like the pumpkin card I just showed. And so I just went ahead and spaced them evenly on there from the edges and then covered the gap with a piece of craft cardstock. And then put my circle sentiments on there, another Hello Gorgeous, and then Oh My Gourd. And I think that's all I have of the pumpkin right now and the gourds. There are some like thinner, like 1 inch by 1.5 to 2 inch strips that I'll save till the very end of my pad kill and then combine them with other strips that are similar widths and sizes to make like a card front. So it's not the last that you'll see of it, but you won't see it for a while. Then there was this page that had a forest scene, like it was the full 12 by 12, the full page image. And when I first saw it, my first thought was to use it as like some simple note cards where it was just the paper on the card base. And I had cut my card bases down to 4 by 5.5 on this one, so I could get 6 card fronts out of each sheet of 12 by 12. But once I put the paper on the cardstock, I felt it just wasn't enough. I wanted to do a little bit more with it. So I found this phrase, "May the forest be with you," in my silhouette and sized it to what I wanted it to be and sent it to the printer to print on some craft cardstock. And then I had some craft cardstock strips left from cutting my card bases down to 4 inches or 4 by 5.5. So I just used those to anchor the sentiment on the bottom. And then I have some foam tape. I don't know if you can see that in there. Foam tape to pop up the sentiment, "May the forest be with you." And I thought those would be good. You can use them for birthday, encouragement, good luck. And then I had some more of those forest cards left. And so I had some of these "Oh Dear, Another Year" sentiments already printed out from some other cards that I had made in the past. And some of them were on craft cardstock and some of them were on off-white cardstock. So the ones that were on the craft, I just backed them with some off-white paper, off-white cardstock to help it stand out from the card a little bit. And then those that were on the off-white cardstock, I just used craft strip cut into a fishtail banner to help anchor those. And then the last card I have today are these cute little skunk cards. And I had made a skunk card several years ago using my Cricut, using papers similar to this. What is that? The herringbone. And it was, you know, black and white herringbone too. So when I saw this paper, it made me think of that card and maybe that I could recreate it. But when I had done it the first time, I actually cut all of the layers out on the Cricut and glued them together to make the skunk. But I didn't necessarily want to do that this time. And so I played with some images on the silhouette and kind of melded several of them together to get what I wanted. But I welded everything together on the image so that I could just print it out and color it in. So I did that with the skunk, and then before I printed out, I also added the sign that says "That stinks," so it looks like he's holding the sign. But then printed everything out on white cardstock and colored it in, some with my Copics and then some with my colored pencils. But for some reason the colored pencils smeared quite a bit. So anyway, I have the phrase "bad day" up here, and then, you know, the skunk is saying "that stinks." So I wanted to bring in some color on the black and white. So there was this red paper that was also part of the pad that I used. And then I put some red flowers up here just because I felt it was still so black and white. Like I wanted to bring out a little bit more red to help the red pop. So I just have 3 little cardstock flower punches up here and then some white sequins on top of those. And then I cut my cards on black cardstock, and so I put some white paper on the inside just so there's a place that someone can write a message. So anyway, those are the cards I have done for now. And it did use up a good chunk of the paper, so that made me feel good, and these were really fun to make. And I'm thinking that at my craft show, I may actually take a couple of these, put 2 of them together and put them in a pack for just some fall themed cards. Because at our craft shows, I sell individual greeting cards and I sell note card packs. And the note cards usually come, they're like 6 to 12 depending on the style and the occasion. So I thought just to add another price point somewhere in between, since these aren't as detailed as some of my other greeting cards, but they're a little more detailed than a normal note card that I do, that I would maybe put them together with some envelopes in a mini card pack. So I don't know what you guys, let me know what you think about that. But that's what I have today, and I have a couple more types of blocks to finish up, and those are the big projects that are done, and then finish up my cards, and I can wrap up this Kilopad project. It's starting to look like fall in my craft space for sure. I have fall decorations, fall cards everywhere. I'm not usually one to wish summer away, but after doing all of this, I'm actually ready for fall, so bring it on. But anyway, thanks for watching today. Hopefully you guys liked the cards I made. If you did, go ahead and give me a thumbs up and stay tuned, because like I said, I have a few more projects to share, and then can wrap up the project for you all as well. Thanks again, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye for now.